In case you had a tough week, and even if you didn't, New Vision TV brings you a light-hearted look at some of the names parents give their daughters and propel them to prominence. Considering that in Uganda there are very many names to choose from, the pattern that seems to fall some names is interesting. Let us start with the name Elizabeth, popularly shortened to Betty. After all, the time Uganda gained independence from Britain, the reigning monarch was and still Queen Elizabeth. And right now, the new star of Uganda's politics is Betty Muzanira, the Rukunjiri woman who has trounced over the powerful NRM candidate in the Rukunjiri parliamentary by-election. Anyway, in all its nearly 6 decades of independence, one of the bravest Ugandans was Mrs. Betty Bigombe. She spent the most significant time as minister resident in the north at the time of the LRA war. Betty Bigombe, at great risk to herself, spent a lot of time engaging warlord Joseph Kony, trying to talk sense and sanity into his head. If any Ugandan has worked for building peace in modern Uganda, then it is Betty Bigombe. And then you have probably heard of Betty Namboze, MP from Kono municipality. For humble beginnings, as a journalist, she defeated a heavyweight in elections, but the opponents used legalistics to keep her out of parliament for 4 of the first 5 years of her first election victory. As a fire-spitting opposition activist, she has spent years in prison and earned an official detention. As a radical monarchist, she has held an unofficial role but endorsed by the Kabaka as teacher of the Buganda subjects. As a staunch Catholic, she recently said she will stop going for confession because she suspects that the priest who hear her sins could be government spies. You could also have heard of Betty Kamya, the Minister for Kampala Affairs. Her clan name is Namisango, so appropriate that she has offended the ruling NRM authorities so many times. And finally, she annoyed her opposition colleagues irreparably when she joined the ruling government, and before the age limit was removed from the constitution, she declared that Museveni should rule again after 2021. But if you've not heard of Betty Amongi, then you don't live in Uganda. A die-hard member of UPC, she's even married to the son of Apollo Milton Obote, former president of the party. She jumped into bed with NRM and was named Minister for Lands. Without wasting much time, she started acquiring prime property in the city and managing the multi-billion land fund in a style that has raised judicial eyebrows. And finally, for now, in comes Betty Muzanira of the FDC. She's the one who pulled Winfred Matsko from Parliament and, more interestingly, thus forced 5 billion shillings expenditure in Rukunjiri recently in preparations for the by-election. And finally, she romped to victory, trouncing the NRM candidate. And how about the name Jennifer? At least Uganda now has a Jennifer who is not divisive. In Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi, author of Chintu, who recently won the Campo Literature Prize. Before that, she won the 2014 Commonwealth Short Story Prize. You should also have heard of Jennifer Namuyango, since she is an MP and actually recently a minister in the government. In 2003, Jennifer Namuyango was a minister when she stunned the country by insulting His Eminence Emmanuel Cardinal Wamala, advising him to concentrate on managing offertory monies and stop giving any opinion on the removal of presidential term limits from the constitution. She lost the subsequent election and, following a subsequent loss of petition, ended up in such a deep debt that court brokers started hunting for her to take her to prison. But she bounced back in a subsequent election and is back in government as a minister. And the real Jennifer, who doesn't need introduction. When the law to create Kampala Capital City Authority was implemented, the president appointed a lawyer who had retired from Uganda Revenue Authority called Jennifer Musisi. She did several things, but the most memorable could be locking the Lord Mayor, in theory her senior, out of office for most of his first term and denying him his salary. Jennifer Musisi ran the city affairs with such an iron hand that she even succeeded in making her appointing authority, President Yoweri Museveni, lose the elections in the city. At least that is what the president believed when he publicly criticized her iron hand. but she bounced back when Museveni reappointed her to continue as KCCA boss for another term. But even some traditional clan names seem to lead to certain character formation. The two top most spiritual leaders in Uganda outside the conventional denominations are both called Namutebi. The one who owns the largest cathedral in East Africa is Prophetess Imelda Namutebi Kula. And then the most powerful traditionalist, also chairperson of Uganda's traditional healers, is Namutebi, once called Slivia, then Sophia. Her first name changes depending on the religion of the man she's having. She's otherwise better known as Mama Fina. This is because Namutebi's first man, father of her first daughter Josephine, was a Christian. So if you get a daughter in future, you may wish to consider giving her one of the names above, depending on what character you want them to become.